You know, Mr. ROCHA?
Yes, sir.
I don't think Endgame was long enough.
I crazily agree with you.
I gotta find out what was everything that was cut from Endgame's Final Battle from this video from Screen Rant. I literally had a bunch of videos. John, which videos do you want to cover? And then he's like, no, definitely this one right here.
Yeah. Anything to do with the Avengers Endgame,
Yeah, we'll do this one. We'll do this one. John ROCHA, go check out his YouTube channel as soon as you can. Link in description box and pinned comment. Tell them about your channel, John.
It's a channel that's got all kinds of stuff on there. Trailer reactions, reviews, live streams, mornings with the Outlaw. Got a Geek Buddies show. Got a wrestling show called Strong Style. Got a sports show coming up called Game Time. So I'm doing all kinds of things. It's all covered there. A new outlet there, the Outlaw Nation. Come do it. Come join the nation.
I would just suggest quit being lazy. That's all I'll say.
Fair point, real reject. Fair point. Nice.
Assemble.
Oh, yeah.
Just a montage.
Avengers Endgame was the movie event of the decade. Fans waited over 10 years to see the culmination of the Infinity Saga, and they were not disappointed with the concluding chapter.
Truth.
Give me that.
There's like 5 people who were.
The film was surprisingly slow in the opening chapters, but ramped up in intensity, culminating in one epic battle scene.
Should have won the Oscar.
But while there was a lot to pack into those 3 hours, there was quite a bit that was cut, specifically from the jaw-dropping, crowd-pleasing final battle between every single MCU hero and the hordes of Thanos.
That was awesome.
What did we not get?
Yeah.
Speaking of Thanos, let's start things off with him. For most of his screen time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thanos was just an angry purple alien sitting on a throne barking orders. In all honesty,
Like
if
Christian
you never read a
Harlow.
Marvel comic,
I do not co-sign.
Just messing with you.
yet we knew that he was going to be the big bad that culminated.
He's the only
10
YouTuber I
years
can think of who-
storytelling.
Like, who's the king here?
Him insane down. Thankfully, Infinity War delivered on everything that makes Thanos
Great chin, by the
and
way.
handsome.
Thanos. I like that chin.
Harloff,
This
great
resulted
chin
in him
too.
becoming one of the more compelling villains in the entire saga. He was ruthless, calculating,
Yeah, man.
deranged, emphatic,
I was so
and
mad when he beat
so
up Hulk.
much more. But there was more to Thanos that was cut during Endgame.
Tell me.
Yeah, Wong, we
And
wanted
thanks
more.
to some gruesome imagery, we totally understand why this one was left on the cutting room floor.
Really? What
During the
was
final
it?
showdown between the Avengers and Team Thanos, things are fairly straightforward, as Thanos from 2014 is brought to 2023 to make sure his original plan doesn't get undone, as the Thanos from the past learned that his future self was axed off and that Earth's mightiest heroes seek to undo what original Thanos
You're
had
taking a
done.
long time to build up to this. Just tell me what it was.
It better not be
Even
10
in his
seconds.
2014 version that hasn't committed universal genocide, Thanos is imposing and a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
But in his original pitch version of an encounter with the Avengers, things would have been way more harrowing. The pitch saw 2014 Thanos find the Avengers in his 2014 timeline and utterly destroy them all before making his jump into the future to face them again on the battlefield. When he
makes
was
sense.
face to face with the team that lobbed off the original Thanos' melon at the beginning of Endgame, he kindly returned the favor by tossing the head of Captain America onto the battlefield before the Avengers. Put the Avengers off their game, using fear as a tactic to illustrate that he's already beaten them and that he is about to do it again.
That would have been awesome.
We had most of the script working except for the third act, because Anthony and I were clinging to this concept that we wanted Thanos to walk up to the Avengers and throw Captain America's head on the ground. It wasn't just the Russos that seemed to be obsessed with the idea of skulls and heads when coming up with imagery for Thanos. Kevin Feige himself was toying with the idea of Thanos operating from a throne of skulls and bones, and Thanos would lob Cap's head like a bowling ball towards the Avengers from his heavy metal inspired throne that would put the one from Game of Thrones to shame. Not exactly the best imagery for a PG-13 blockbuster concluding chapter.
I don't know, that would have been awesome.
In fact, it seems that logistics and storytelling in getting Thanos from A to B was more of a concern in this account than the imagery itself, as the team felt having
fair.
Thanos
Yeah,
bounce
you can
around,
understand that.
having the Avengers go into his ship to see the throne.
There's
didn't
no
make
way
sense.
Disney would have
So
approved.
the concepts were scrapped in favor of Thanos' ship simply landing and Thanos getting straight to business. Regardless, the scene was never shot, leaving us only to imagine what a hardcore Thanos would have been like. Just about all of the final battle in Endgame is on the ground, with Thor, Cap, and Iron Man having a more intimate duel with the Mad Titan before literally everyone gets involved once the snap is undone and emerges on the battlefield through the magic portals. As mentioned, most of this battle is on the ground, with Iron Man, Rescue, and War Machine flying in the sky alongside some Ravager ships and Pegasus from New Asgard in some quick shots. But there was something that was cut from the sky in this instance, and that was Kraglin's big moment. In this cut sequence, Kraglin fights an aerial battle that was actually shot but cut from the final sequence. Fans will be happy to know that Kraglin has a similar metallic mohawk to Yondu's from the first one, and still has his fancy lethal arrow with him too. Sadly, he didn't get to use it in this particular sequence as he was too busy flying about in a Ravager ship. Seeing as the scene relies heavily on green screen, we don't have to know who Kraglin would be sharing the sky with, but we can assume that this bit would have likely involved the Ravagers teaming up with the Wakandan airships to fight the airborne Chitauri.
He was leading the Wakanda people from Wakanda.
For the first time, the aerial battle with ships and one minor character was understandably cut. Justice for Kraglin, anyone?
Yeah.
This wasn't the only heroic moment that got slashed from the climactic battle in Endgame. This was the scene that brought all the heroes from all franchises together, and as such, we got some pretty awesome and unlikely team-ups during the epic battle. One such moment was unfortunately left out of the movie, and that moment involved the team-up between Okoye from Black Panther and Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok.
What? That would have been so cool!
And while all the ladies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe did get their moment to shine together, Okoye and Valkyrie actually had a scene featuring just the two of them.
What?
Unused concept art, the duo was intended to swap their respective weapons with each other, allowing an Asgardian to fight with a Wakandan weapon and vice versa. It would have been cool and a fun little moment, but in the midst of a ton of fan service and epic wins, it likely had to be shaved out of the movie as it was already pushing 3 hours in length, and the film already included a weapon swapping scene when Cap began to use Mjolnir.
Who cares?
Let's face it, that moment was so awesome that any other weapon swap scene would have paled in comparison.
I disagree madly.
I think
Speaking
everyone
of
should have swapped weapons.
Maybe the movie moment of the decade, there was some stuff centered around that whole entire bit that didn't make the final cut of the movie. There's unused concept art for Endgame that shows a reluctant and uncertain Steve Rogers attempting to lift the hammer. While the artwork looks like Steve is reaching for the hammer, the artist for that specific piece, Ryan Meinerding, stated that he wanted Cap to feel uncertainty about whether or not he could actually be worthy of lifting up the hammer from the ground, rather than it flying straight into his hand. As you all remember, the Mjolnir gag was set up all the way back in Age of Ultron, when Cap attempted to lift the hammer from the table, resulting in the smallest of budges. This scene was initially meant to invoke that scene, but we think that the final result in Endgame was more surprising and satisfying.
Yeah.
So we know the final battle was awesome and was immensely crowd-pleasing, but it was already pretty long, which is why there are so many cuts to the action sequences.
Whatever.
This scene no doubt would have made the scene even longer, but likely would have felt more like padding as opposed to offering anything of real substance. But thanks to a leak behind the scenes,
I know, right?
What is this complaining about padding?
Action for our heroes as they huddle up in a trench, preparing for the next move. The scene in question was said to be around 3 minutes in length, which is a pretty
that's
long
actually pretty
scene
long.
of dialogue in the middle of a battle, especially when the battle is against Thanos and his horde. It likely broke the flow of the action, which is why it was scrapped from the movie in favor of keeping the momentum going, and that's coming from the writers of the movie themselves, Chris Marcus and Stephen McFeely. The pair thought that breaking up the action for a, quote, fake and fraudulent scene, end quote, with no natural dialogue felt so weak that they didn't even believe the scene would make the final cut.
You really insulted your own scene.
That may have been
weak
part
sauce.
of the reason as to why this next scene was cut, as it was ultimately redundant despite being visually awesome. After declaring for the final time that he is Iron Man and sacrifices himself for the universe, Tony dies.
Iron Man.
The Avengers, no matter from what corner of the world, all take a knee, as they've likely
I've seen
heard
this
of him
scene.
if they didn't
I've seen
directly
this
know
scene.
him. That is,
pretty
everyone but Gamora, who is the 2014 version of the
Right.
character.
Why would she take a knee? Because she has no
Who the hell
connection
are
to
you
it.
guys?
She is left standing, unfamiliar with who Tony is. The Russos ultimately cut this scene as they felt it took some of the thunder away from the upcoming funeral. One thing that this scene does confirm, though, is that 2014 Gamora is 100% alive and well. A fact that we assumed, but didn't get any clear answers by the end of the movie. One of the people at the funeral scene was naturally Morgan Stark, daughter of Tony and Pepper. Morgan was a surprise addition to the narrative as Endgame jumps the narrative 5 years into the future and Tony is settled into a domestic lifestyle with a family.
I love you 3,000.
But while Morgan was played by Lexi Rabe, she wasn't the only actress set to play Morgan in Endgame.
Right.
Catherine Langford,
Yeah,
perhaps best known
I heard
thanks to
about
her
this.
role in 13 Reasons Why, was also brought on to play an older version of Morgan. After Tony snapped his fingers wearing the gauntlet, he was
heard about
initially
this
supposed to have his own metaphysical moment, much like how Thanos saw Gamora after his own snap in Infinity War. The Russos decide that audiences don't know Morgan that well yet, and breaking away from the action to spend time with a minor character may have been nice for Tony, but may have taken the audience out of the film a bit to see a new version of Morgan appear so suddenly. Instead of having a deep moment, we would
fair.
have likely been wondering
know.
who this person is at first, which would have taken away from the scene.
I don't know, because, like,
We know Tony
he
got
says,
to
"I love
see
you
Morgan
3000."
grow
That
up
has been the thing
before
everyone's been
leaving
saying
us
ever
for
since,
good.
and she's
Despite
connected to
Langford being
that.
cast in the
So seeing
movie,
an
this
older
important
version of her and
to
having
the
him go,
scene has yet to actually surface.
get older? Oh my God, that kind of thing. And then her say to him, was it worth
Do you
it?
think this
That's
scene should
great.
have
Could
been
be a
left
great
in the
goodbye
movie? Let
moment
us know.
between father and daughter. I know, that's my personal opinion.
She says a very passionate personal opinion together. I think they should have kept all the like 5-second scenes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not the 3-minute conversation.
Like we don't need that whole. Like that would have definitely messed with the flow. Yeah.
Awesome stuff, Screen Rant. Love it.
That was great. I guess I wouldn't have minded the Morgan scene, like an older version of Morgan. But I kind of agree in this sense. You would still have to do like an accustomed readjusting to older version of Morgan. And I think it's still powerful and impactful. I think it's powerful enough that he leaves that hologram video message behind for her at the funeral. I think that is the scene that made the "I love you 3000" moment hit home a lot harder.
That's a good point, yeah.
Like I'd rather have that scene in the movie where he's saying goodbye to her when she's a little girl through the hologram,
Right.
as opposed to saying goodbye to her when she's older in this metaphysical world that's similar to like Thanos and Gamora in Infinity War. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I think it's a good point. Actually, I hadn't thought of that, how much better that scene is. And it's a great way for him to say goodbye on his terms without any kind of weird creepiness of being in another realm.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that's true.
It's showing an older Morgan makes it seem like, oh, you're going to miss all these years with me as I grow up. That was a better way to do it, left the audience feeling better. But let's just talk about this head rolling Captain America.
that was the best.
What the hell was that all about?
That would have been awesome.
I mean,
the stakes could have been a little bit middling here, and I'll explain what I mean by
Yeah.
that in a second. One side of me goes, if he shows up with a head-rolling cap, that increases the stakes of this 2014 Thanos, showing how much of a lethal threat he is.
True.
But I think as an audience viewer, I remember the first time I watched it going, they could kill off Cap in this movie. They might kill off Cap.
Yeah.
Like, as I think a lot of us would agree that when Cap is that beautiful, like, painting shot where he's watching Thanos and the whole army coming his way and he's standing alone with his shield.
Yeah.
It's this really harrowing moment, and none of us, in the first time watching it, were thinking, oh, this is probably when all the other people are going to show up. Like, that's what made that moment work so well, is because we weren't thinking about that. I feel like we might have been on the lookout for it because you already got the head-rolling moment of them trying to raise the stakes. So I think that might have, at least for me as an audience member, I would have been aware that they were trying to raise the threat level. I'm like, well, they already killed off that 2014 version of Cap. They're not going to kill off this version of Cap in this same movie now, too, you know? That's just my belief. But at the same time, I think it would have been cool.
It's certainly not a PG-13 movie anymore. You're not cutting the head off Captain America. Captain America. You're not doing it.
It's weird with movies and shows. It's like there are television shows I watch that are network television that do these like very violent things, and I'm like, but this is supposed to technically fall under PG-13, but it's so violent on TV.
True.
But then I think about like Disney, PG-13, they probably wouldn't be able to get away with something that gory.
I mean, there's that scene in an Apocalypse Now when he drops Frederick Forrest's head up in Martin Sheen's lap. Brando does.
Yeah.
It's a pretty harrowing moment. So you put that in Endgame. There was enough darkness already over those 6 hours of both those movies. And throwing in the head of Captain America as a bowling ball in front of these guys is insane. So I think that would have been just maybe a step too far. So I'm glad they got pulled back. But I love the fact that Feige had a sensibility to do it. That lets you know that a horror movie in the MCU is not out of the realm of possibility down the road, and I like that.
Because he was talking about the Thanos possibly having, what was it, like a skull?
Sitting on a throne of skulls.
Yeah, that would have been neat. The weapon swap with Valkyrie and Okoye.
That would have been badass.
That would have been awesome. I agree, that might have been a little redundant to a certain extent because you did get that moment with Cap and Thor. I feel like you could have done something else though.
Sure.
With them, it didn't have to be a weapon swap.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to just see them team up.
And the weapon swap didn't have to be like, hey, let me toss this. It could be the one weapon got knocked out, the other weapon got knocked out. They grabbed the weapon that was close to them, and then they used it, then tossed it back to each other. It didn't have to be a weapon swap like what you saw with Thor and Captain America. It would have been more in the flow of the battle.
True.
Right. There was a way they could have done it, which would have been badass, but just the idea of a Valkyrie, an Asgardian using Wakandan weaponry and vice versa would have been awesome.
What do you think about Kraglин's scene being cut?
I think it's a shame, but Kraglin is not, like, I don't think that that's the moment that you announce Kraglin's taken over the Ravagers and he is now the new Yondu.
Yeah.
It would have been lost amongst all the other moments that were going on in the battle. I think you save that for a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Because I still think we still need to earn a little bit more with, I mean, it's like, we like Sean Gunn, yeah, we do.
Of course.
We like him, but I don't feel like he's anywhere near as the level of beloved as any of the ensemble in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Right.
So I feel like it would have been like a neat moment, but I don't think it would have been as rewarding for most people. Yeah, you're right. Like in Guardians 3, they should really use that to their advantage to build up the Kraglin characters to make him a lot more beloved.
Yeah, and nothing says they can't have a flashback scene where Kraglin says, I was there too.
That'd be funny. James Gunn dialogue with that would be really funny.
Yeah, so they shoot it anyway. So it could still be in there in some way down the road.
That actually would be really funny. I think James Gunn would know how to handle that kind of moment really well. What was this 3-minute conversation? I don't know. I hear 3-minute conversation and I'm like, yeah, it's too long.
Yeah, I agree. In the middle of a battle scene like that, it's too long. And look, battle scenes are great when they're choreographed and they have moments to have conversations. Those conversations, most of the time, are usually brief because it takes you right out of a battle scene when you spend too much time talking. Hell, even 1917, those battle scenes are right on top of each other. They don't spend a lot of time having conversations.
The best scenes in the battle that are just scenes are short-lived, but they're more visual.
Yeah.
Like when Tony finds Peter Parker and then he's rambling for a bit and then he just hugs him. Like, that is rewarding and very touching, but a 3-minute conversation is... That would slow it down. I mean, it's like, what's 3 minutes out of a 3.5-hour movie, but it's still like, it would have messed with the flow. And the kneeling scene we've talked about on this channel. I'm sure we talked about it at other places.
Yeah,
too.
that's cool.
I like the scene. I do think, though, that if you had the kneel moment and then you had the funeral moment, I'm like, this is a little too much.
Right.
Yeah.
It would have been overdoing it. I don't disagree.
Would have been overkill. But as it stands, half of these I'm cool with them cutting out, and there's other parts where I'm like, you could have tinkered with that a little bit. But either way, that was fun. It's cool to know. It's cool stuff to know, you know?
Captain America's head on a pike.
I would have liked it, man. That would have been neat. I think that would have been cool. Guys, subscribe to Screen Rant if you haven't done so already. Make sure to check out John ROCHA Says, the Outlaw Nation channel. Do it as soon as you can. Subscribe to Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Last but not least, Daniel Gallagher. I wrote you a poem, buddy. Greg poem time. His name is Daniel, a masculine angel who saves the sexy damsels. His name means God is my judge, but the man never holds a grudge, even when I steal a bite of his fudge. A handsome gentleman from the land of Scotland. When he joined our Patreon, my positive emotions certainly heightened. Last name Gallagher, meaning valorous victor. Never one to bicker. Compare his junk to mine. It's certainly much thicker, overall bigger. He achieved this through being a pharmacist, prescribed himself a pill, and through God's will, he named his little Daniel Phil. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.